Carson Wentz went from MVP frontrunner and Philadelphia's Golden Boy to out of Philly in just 4 years. And after his time in Philly, he went on to start for 5 different teams, now starting from Minnesota and currently going against Pittsburgh as I'm recording this video. But what went wrong? What went down in his career that made him lose the ability that we once seen him have? Is it possible that he's been regressing since his MVP campaign in 2017? Or have we fell for the bait again and been believing a false narrative and Carson Wentz still has the abilities to become a great QB in this league? We will try to narrow down the answer today by looking back and analyzing his career. And if you guys want to see more career recaps like this, make sure you guys like and subscribe because I do these all the time. And let's get right into the video. Carson Wentz was born in Raleigh, North Carolina, December 30th, 1992. At the age of 3 though, he moved with his family to North Dakota. Here is where he would become a legend in high school sports. He played multiple sports in his high school days, like baseball, basketball, and he played football, where he played quarterback and defensive back. Though coming in as an undersized freshman, he saw much success at Century High School. By his senior year, he grew to 6'5", and he was named Player of the Year in 2010. His outstanding play in high school earned him a scholarship at North Dakota State. Coming into North Dakota State, he had no stars, redshirting his first year. Through Wentz's first 2 seasons, he was a backup, and he was exceptional when he played. But it wasn't until 2014, Wentz's junior year, when he was named the starter. And the wait proved worth it as he set single-season team records in passing attempts, completions, and yards. The former valedictorian was also the Bison's second leading rusher. And despite an injury leading him to miss majority of his senior year, he came back in time to become the first North Dakota native to lead them to a FCS national championship. Wentz's impressive stint with the North Dakota Bison showed off his impressive arm along with his impressive legs, and he won 20 out of his 23 starts. The flawless resume led him to being marked second overall to the Philadelphia Eagles. And in the 2016 NFL Draft, that's exactly where he went. Wentz from draft day was an anomaly, and it wasn't just because he was a ginger, born in North Carolina, who etched his name in North Dakota football history. He also was the first QB taken by the Eagles in the first round since Donovan McNabb in 1999. He also became the highest selected FCS quarterback in draft history. Wentz started and got injured in a preseason game, but he was healthy enough to return in the season opener, where he started in place for Sam Bradford, who was sent to Minnesota before the season started. And after starting all 16 games in his rookie season, the Eagles were 7-9, and Wentz had broke the record for the most completions by a rookie in a season, a record previously held by former Eagle Sam Bradford. Despite the large amount of picks, Wentz showed flashes of greatness. And he was obviously the guy in Philadelphia. But if this Eagles team wanted to make a run with a second-year QB and a second-year coach, they had to, of course, make some moves. The Eagles picked up a lengthy deep threat in Alshon Jeffrey from Chicago, and when healthy in Chicago, he put up video game numbers. So the Eagles hoped to see the same in Philly. They also picked up veterans LeGarrette Blount and Chris Long, and also Jay Ajayi to add some speed to the backfield. They also signed former Eagle Nick Foles to back up Carson Wentz. And through just 5 games of the 2017 NFL season, it was pretty clear that Philadelphia was for real this year. Wentz had thrown for 10 TDs and just 3 picks, and was putting up highlight after highlight with wide receiver tandem Nelson Aguilar and Alshon Jeffrey. Early on, Wentz was the MVP favorite, and through 12 games, the Eagles were 10-2 and the obvious NFC favorite to make it to the Super Bowl. Entering Week 14, Carson Wentz's Eagles put up 25 plus points in all but 2 of his games he started, and while going against the Rams, already with 4 touchdowns and just 1 interception to his name, Wentz suffered a knee injury and didn't return for the remainder of the game. But he ended up not returning for the rest of the season with an ACL injury. But with Nick Foles as the starter of the greatest Eagles team that they have ever had, and with a first round bye in the playoffs, Philadelphia only needed 2 wins to make it to the Super Bowl. And with Carson Wentz on the sideline watching, Nick Foles and the Philadelphia Eagles did the impossible and beat the best version of Tom Brady to capture a Lombardi. And fans at home watching only could imagine what Carson Wentz was feeling. But later on in the 2022 report, Darren Sproles revealed that Carson Wentz showed displeasure in the team's success without him. And this rubbed many players the wrong way. And a lot of people could really point this as the beginning of the downfall. But the next season, despite the Eagles having a disappointing start, Carson Wentz put up pretty solid numbers. But with the Eagles offense looking pretty stagnant compared to the 2017 team, many people started pointing fingers fast. But similar to 2017, after the back injury to Carson Wentz, Philadelphia elevated, and Nick Foles led him to the playoffs after originally not having a good shot. And in the playoffs, if it wasn't for a drop by Alshon Jeffrey that led to a game-sealing pick, The Eagles could have easily went down the field and scored against the New Orleans Saints, and possibly upset the Rams to make it to the Super Bowl for a second straight year. But nevertheless, more Eagles success without Carson Wentz sparked chatter. And with the Eagles not bringing back Foles, it was pretty obvious that they were all in on Wentz. And that made it crystal clear when they signed him to a big 4-year, $128 million deal. The deal was risky due to the injury history of Wentz, but it was also risky due to the $107 million guaranteed. But the Eagles started off a lackluster 3-3, and more controversy sprung around the Eagles behind Carson Wentz when an anonymous report came out by a Philly player that criticized Wentz for trying to make a big play out of everything instead of taking the fundamental checkdowns. Despite the noise though, Wentz led Philly to another division title, and he became the first Philadelphia Eagles quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards in a season. He also became the first quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards without having a 500-yard receiver. And in front of Wentz was a perfect opportunity to redeem himself where he had his first career playoff start. Instead, Wentz didn't even make it past the first quarter, where he left with a concussion. And the Eagles' 2019 season ended in disappointing fashion. Wentz returned in the 2020 season, and early on, turnovers were a problem. He threw 2 TDs but also 2 picks as the Eagles lost in their season opener. And their disappointing start was signs of things to come. And as the season developed, the main talks around the Eagles were their stagnant offense and turnovers. And Carson Wentz led the league in turnovers. And it wasn't long before Philadelphia media grew impatient. At the Week 9 bye, they were 3-4-1 and they still had their foot deep in the playoff race because how bad their division was. But one of their toughest stretches of the season was coming up as they had to face Cleveland, Seattle, and Green Bay. But before those matchups, they had a favorable matchup against New York, which they lost despite no turnovers by Carson Wentz. But through the next 2 games, he threw picks, and finally, after 2 quarters of the Week 13 matchup against Green Bay, he was benched for rookie quarterback Jalen Hurts. And immediately when Hurts replaced Carson, the energy on this team felt completely different. And even though the season didn't go as planned, the future looked bright as Jalen Hurts shined in his final couple games. As for Carson Wentz, everybody knew he was on his way out of Philly, and he made it known he did not want to be a backup. Philly granted his wish in the 2021 offseason when he was traded to the Colts for 2 draft picks. And Doug Peterson was also out due to his lack of clear vision for the future and his questionable decision to bench Jalen Hurts in the final moments of the final game of the 2020 season. He would eventually sign with the Jaguars, and both of them had fresh starts leaving Philly. Carson Wentz in Indianapolis would reunite with Frank Reich, who was the offensive coordinator for Philadelphia for a time. However, Wentz's start with the team wouldn't be so smooth. He suffered a foot injury that required surgery just in training camp. Despite this, he returned in the season opener, and he had a pretty solid opening performance for Indianapolis. And heading into Week 17, all the Colts needed was a win to head into the playoffs. But Carson Wentz and the Colts would choke, losing to Las Vegas by 3 and suffering an embarrassing loss to Jacksonville, knocking them out the playoffs. And after the heartbreaking late season collapse, Wentz was out of Indianapolis in just 1 season. Again, Wentz's numbers weren't bad, but he still had the same criticisms from his time in Philly. He holds on for the ball too long. He can't perform in critical situations. All these things were louder than ever after his exit in Indianapolis. But in my opinion, he still could have been a solid starting QB in the NFL. But the exit out of Indianapolis killed the little confidence he had. In the next season, he returned in the NFC East, where he would play this time in a Washington Commanders uniform. Early in the year, he returned to Philly since they were in the same division, and he had one of his most lackluster games in a minute, being sacked 9 times and fumbled twice. Wentz started the season solid though, but after the Week 3 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, he kinda spiraled out of control. And after he suffered a finger injury against Chicago, being placed on injury reserve, upon his return weeks later he was still not named starter. Later in the year though, Wentz got his chance to redeem himself, with him being named starter with 2 games left and the Washington Commanders still having life in the playoff race. But with Wentz's first starting performance since Week 6, he put up a 3-interception game, ending the Commanders' seasons in his tracks. And after another season of disappointing his team around playoff time, Wentz was released by the Commanders. The next 2 seasons, Wentz backed up for 2 different teams, and in this span started a total of 2 games. And in the 2025 season, he is playing currently for the Minnesota Vikings, stepping in for J.J. McCarthy, who has gotten injured. And after 2 games, I can confidently say he can be a solid backup in the league, because he stepped in and played solid football. But long term, I simply don't believe Carson Wentz is the answer anymore. And at one point, he looked like a generational talent in Philadelphia, and all the praise he was getting was well deserved. as he finished third in MVP voting, led his team to the #1 seed in the NFC, and truly brought life back to Philadelphia football. But not even 2 years into his new deal, he was out of Philly. Some would say he was rightfully let out of there, but I say he was unrightfully forced out of Philly by the harsh environment and culture of the franchise. It's as simple as he didn't rise to the occasion, so he got swallowed by it. And of course, injuries played a factor, but the awkward exit from Philly and the unfair dismissal from the Indianapolis Colts after one season pretty much ruled his demise. And of course, with Carson Wentz being probably a top 3 quarterback of all time for me, I really hope he finds some success somewhere, even if it's not in Minnesota. But with the Vikings right now, especially after Sam Darnold's season last year, he's in the perfect system to revive his career. And if he does, just remember this video and remember me telling you that I believe that Carson Wentz still has a little bit of magic left in the tank. And if you guys want to remember this channel and see some old videos I made, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.